session of the Cricket New South Wales online coach education series. My name's Nick Bills, and part of my role at Cricket New South Wales is the Coach Development Manager. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, we welcome you to the session. And for those of you who may be tuning in for second, third, fourth, or there might even be a few of you who are tuning in, have tuned into all five, we welcome you back and thank you again for giving up some of your time tonight, and hopefully you can take something out, and I have no doubt you will be able to take something away from the session. Tonight's session is titled Inspiring Females to Love Cricket, focusing in on the ever-expanding women's game and the nuances of coaching female athletes. It seems like an eternity ago now, but it was only 3 or 4 months. There was 86 or 87,000 people crammed in to the MCG. That was probably the last time that many people will ever be in the same space together for a little while. But it just goes to show that the women's game's expanding at a rapid rate, and a session like this will be really important in helping to develop the next crop of young girls coming through and playing the game. The session will be facilitated by Steve Davies and Troy McKiernan, who are coach and talent specialists for ACT Southern New South Wales and Northern New South Wales, respectively.
Sorry? Because you're a level 2 coach, you've got to do points.
Yes. Sorry, guys. Could we just get you to turn your microphone off in the background there? Thank you. Both Steve and Troy work heavily in the female pathway at Cricket New South Wales as well. Steve was the head coach of last season's under-15 ACT New South Wales Countryside, and Troy was the head coach of the under-18 ACT New South Wales Countryside, who won both the T20 and 50-over titles at the 2019-20 National Championship. So both Steve and Troy have large amount of experience coaching female players, so they'll be able to provide some very strong messaging to you all. The session follows on nicely from the first 4 that we had, based around the attributes of effective coach and effective coaching, and this one's more specifically the attributes of an effective coach working with female players. So, pardon me. For now, I'll pass over to Steve and Troy, who will run you through the webinar. Thank you again for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the session.
Okay, thank you there, Billsy. How good is it? Over 70 coaches, I think, signed up for tonight. So that's awesome, and a great reflection on the way the females game's going. So I'd like to welcome and thank you for dialing into the Cricket New South Wales Coaching Webinar Series. Yeah, tonight's webinar is on effective coaching, inspiring females to love cricket. And hopefully at the end of this presentation, we have more coaches inspired to coach in the female space. Tonight, as Nick just alluded to, I'll co-present with Troy McKiernan. Now, Troy is our coach and talent specialist for Northern New South Wales and the successful ACT New South Wales Country Under-18 head coach. Now, Troy's going to offer expert commentary throughout the presentation. As I said, my name's Steve Davies, and I'm the coach and talent specialist for South East New South Wales ACT. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. I'll just ask that computers are on mute and we keep our cameras turned off. Now, we're going to use a product called Menti throughout the presentation to engage you guys in what Troy and I hope will be a beneficial presentation for aspiring coaches in New South Wales. I'll give everyone a couple of minutes to log in using the Menti code number 674935. Okay, hopefully everyone's logged in and ready to go. So webinar outcomes. So to set the scene, I would like to outline some key outcomes that I hope coaches walk away with from tonight's webinar. I'll get you guys as coaches just to read through them 4 outcomes. There's some key words that I'd like you to think about as we're going through the presentation. You know, inspire, empower, player-centred training environments, player-coach relationships, coaching effectively, the 4C coaching principles, and the depth of quality coaches. Now, I've been fortunate to work under some amazing coaches, and they all have fantastic relationships with players and base their training programs around developing the holistic cricketer through played-centred coaching environments. And that's one of the reasons I believe they are successful. I just thought it just highlight some participation growth. For me, this graph highlights a couple of key things. One, the massive growth in young girls playing cricket. The impact the WBBL has had on young girls, and the need for coaches to coach girls' cricket teams. I'm going to share something with you that was shared with me recently, so bear with me while I read it. With the recent success of the Women's T20 World Cup held in Australia, with over 86,000 people in attendance at the MCG, and along with the Australian women's team voted #1 out of 13 national sporting teams that were voted on, pride, trust, enjoyment, respect and bond, beautifully highlights the emotional connection to the female game. This resonates strongly with this quote, "You have to see it to be it," and the growth and exposure of the WBBL and the World Cup on TVs around the country. And I think, wow, what a credit to the Australian head coach, Matthew Mott, his staff and all the players involved. Now, I can envision this having a huge impact on young girls wanting to play cricket and the need for more coaches interested in investing time and effort in this growing space. So coaches, let's get on the bus, eh? Just want to touch on purpose, values and philosophy. Before we get into the presentation, I thought I'd touch on some key principles from the effective coaching presentations brilliantly presented by fellow coach and talent specialists Brett Rankin and Greg McClay. So even though this presentation has a coaching female focus, our principles covered are relevant to coaching male players, or as we like to say, coaching cricketers. Now, before starting any coaching program, ask yourself 3 important questions. And I'll just let you guys, the audience there, just read through that quickly. So your vision, it should be your starting point, your dream for the season. And then your expectations will clearly articulate behaviours you expect from players. And finally, combining your purpose and values to shape your played-centred philosophy will drive your coaching approach, which will be your everyday actions. So if I could summarise, as coaches, new or experienced, make sure you have clarity on your purpose, values and philosophy. Tie this in with a played-centred coaching environment, as this will allow for a smooth and successfully run program where players develop and grow. This flows beautifully into the next slide on the 4 C's of coaching effectively. So primarily, the 4 C's, character, connection, confidence, competency, and growth and development within each of these 4 C's is relying on and closely linked to providing a holistic played-centred coaching environment. Now, them 4C principles is a great framework to shape your training programs. We'll explore these principles and how they relate to coaching female cricketers throughout the presentation. Now, to coach females effectively, establishing that character and connection first will drive confidence, which allows you to develop competency. And I love this quote in reference to coaching females. They don't care what you know until they know you care. Hence the sequence we'll go through tonight's presentation. As we said at the beginning of the presentation, we're going to engage you guys in some Menti questions. So we're going to hand straight over to Troy now, and Troy's going to take you through the first question.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, coaches, for joining us tonight. As you'll see with your Menti, I hope you got your phones ready, but you'll see up on the screen the code, which will be displayed at the top of it during every question. So our first question is, what player attributes help build team-based culture? So I would ask you just to go through now and get your Menti ready and start adding some words in there, and we'll work through that for some things that build team-based culture. Off you go, coaches. Seeing some wonderful words come up here, and what you'll see is we're using a wordscape. So a word that comes up as it grows will mean it's being used more often. So selflessness is standing out, and honesty, team first, and passion. All wonderful, wonderful attributes to build team-based cultures. Collaboration coming through clearly. Trust, wonderful word. Great work, coaches. Some wonderful, wonderful attributes being displayed. Just give it another about 10 seconds for our coaches the last few coaches to get their thoughts in. Okay, looks like it's starting to settle there. Okay, so during these questions, I hope to introduce you to some of the nuances that I've gained through my experience in coaching in the female space, and engage you into ways to explore these moving forward. Okay, there's some wonderful attributes on here, but something that's really resonated strong with me and has shined through with coaching in the female space is curiosity. Young female athletes love to ask questions, and they really love to explore the why before the how. Now, as we explore this journey, we need to learn to be open and not feel challenged, because sometimes these questions can appear to be challenging, but it's just their deep want to know the why. Okay, so if we build opportunities to feed this curiosity and watch their character emerge, and you allow your own character to emerge, it's another common insight that you'll see is, and Steve's already mentioned this, you'll be judged on the whole you for your coaching. Okay, so one of the things that I'd ask you to do is be natural, have fun, be an active listener. And this will bring out the character of your players and start building trust, which grows team-based culture quickly. Back to you, Steve.
Some brilliant insights there, Troy. Thanks, mate. So understanding character. Creating an environment that promotes growth and development is the foundation of a successful program. Now, some of these characteristics include, player engagement. What's your character as a coach? And what are your players' characteristics? Emotional awareness, being empathetic. Social inclusiveness, simply ensuring you involve all players. And group culture. This leads to a safe and welcoming environment for players to express themselves. Now, if I can give you one example, when I was with the under-15 state squad last year, I got the players to pair up and interview each other on a series of questions, then report back to the group on what they learnt. It was a fun way for the girls to get to know each other. Me as coach, I was there looking for leaders, potential captains, etc. So as coaches, don't be afraid to invest time in activities like this to help you understand characters within your team, because this activity also touched on two of the other 4 C's, connection and confidence. So what does this mean for coaches? Get to know your players' interests outside of cricket first, including their background, as this will help you coach players effectively. Now, your ability to communicate effectively, navigating through emotional moments, will be an important component of a successful female program and building the other 4 C's of effective coaching. Now, having that ability to make players feel comfortable off the field allows them to better apply their skills on game day. I was fortunate enough to be away with a couple of under-18 teams in recent years, and some players, they were struggling with some emotions off the field, and for me as a coach, was just trying to relax them, so they could apply these skills on game day. Empower all players to lead and learn on and off the field. With encouragement, players will respond really well to this. Young female cricketers enjoy working in small groups where they perform every aspect of the activity. That maximises participation and enjoyment. And this type of activity also, it hits all of the 4 C's that we've already mentioned. Okay, we're going to quickly throw you back to Troy again. He's going to engage you guys in another Menti question. So I'll hand back to you, Troy.
Thank you, Steve. What you'll see here is a statement at the top of the question. What are some strategies that coaches can use to help build trust within teams and players? Now, what you'll see is a sliding scale. Okay, what I'd like you to do is go through and rank through importance, what you believe is the most important strategies to build trust within your teams and players amongst the statements below. So off you go, coaches. couple of clear leaders coming through. Okay, we're rolling in here. Ooh, our top couple are leading the race. I'm loving the themes that are emerging here, coaches. Okay, a little bit longer. Okay. Wonderful work. And as we see, the coach and player collaboration, the praising effort over outcome have become our clear leaders with, creating non-cricket based team activities, a close follow, and the lowest one there is something I like to see. Okay, so a key cornerstone to me for building trust is showing vulnerability. Okay, it doesn't come naturally to most people, and it's something, we tend to bluff our way through it. Things if we don't know as a coach, we tend to try and hide, but to be vulnerable, you need to know you don't know the answers, and just show you'll seek answers and then follow up. And this is something that's vital with young female cricketers, that you do follow up, because they'll judge you for the whole you. Okay, I'm going to work through some of our statements now and give you some stuff around player collaboration and player-coach collaboration, and praising effort over outcome. Okay, things like celebrating success and showing pride in their effort and praising this effort over the outcomes. This is a strong growth mindset principle and something we believe in and try to really promote in Cricket New South Wales. Something that's sometimes it's challenging with young females is they'll talk about non-cricket based stuff. But you need to be engaged and not feel challenged by this, and be an active listener. It can be tough and different, but then in the male space, where often all they want to talk about is cricket, and this is another little nuance that shines through. I'm just going to give you an example of something that I was lucky enough to be part of, and it was quite a funny little story. So, in an experience coaching, it was a city versus country game, and I had a girl who was from deep out in the Riverina, and she was from Hay. And we did something that was called the Circle of Trust, where we sat around and we offered a little insight about ourselves and something to the group to start building that trust. Now, when we come around to this particular player, she come through and we asked about, what she loves, and she goes, "Oh, I love fishing and pigging and ruin and shooting, and cricket." But cricket was about the fourth or fifth thing to come through, and she was playing at a city versus country level, and it was a really interesting concept. And during the rest of the day, she actually, we talked about it, and she pulled out a phone and she started showing me her favourite dog and the size of her biggest pig, and it built a real element of trust and a connection to that player. And I was lucky enough to coach her for a lot of other journeys from there, but it was an exciting time. Okay, I can see here, and it's really glad that it's come through around addressing individual errors in team environment. Okay, this is something I'd avoid highlighting mistakes in team activities. Encouraging a growth mindset by praising effort and not pointing out these individual errors is something that I'd really like you to actually explore. It's something that over time, as you build trust, you can do in a one-on-one environment, but it's something I'd like you to not consider to be doing in a team environment. Okay, understanding and exploring your athlete's motivation is another great key to building connection and building trust. And showing them you care, showing them you're vulnerable. They're all key strategies in building this trust and showing you care about the whole athlete, not just their cricket. Okay, and this is a really strong theme in athlete-centered environments. Back to you, Steve.
Okay, some excellent analysis there, Troy. Well done. So we go to connection now. So why is this important? Now, once you have a sound understanding of your player's character, connecting players to the game, team, and each other will unite your team and squad. Now, trust with players will develop when you start to collaborate with them. Having a collective agreement between a player, team, and coach on parts of your program will enhance that connection. And one of the examples I can give you is, a few years ago, I was coaching both the male and female academies, and I gave the players the ownership of the warm-up, and the only constraint was it had to be different every week. The boys just went through different winter sports, but the girls were fantastic. They would come up with one of the activities they come up with that really resonated with me was they used shuttle runs in a games of noughts and crosses. So it was unique and a fun way to start training. Other ways you can do is, give the players a bit of control over the outcome in a scenario from every now and then. Demonstrate that you care. Ask non-cricket related questions to engage players. Now, the girls will be often playing many sports, so that's a good way to start that relation. What other sport are you playing? How are you going with it, enjoying, etc., etc. And then the relationships will start to flourish between the coach and player, reinforcing that trust. And this is further enhanced by providing friendly training environments where mistakes are encouraged and explained as part of that learning process. Now, for me, this is super important in player development. And as your relationships grow with players, you start to understand your players' motivation to play and learn. And now you can start to coach effectively. The players will buy into your coaching methods and concepts, allowing honest conversations, enhancing your coaching outcomes. I've been reading a book lately called Coaching Better, and a common theme from all the successful coaches is that they make building relationships and trust with players their top priority. Being vulnerable, not afraid to share fears and weaknesses, builds trust with athletes. Now, it's a great book and worth purchasing. And one of the strategies coaches can use to build these relationships and show that vulnerability is an exercise called hero, highlight, and hardship. Hero, the players to describe someone who has inspired you, and then highlight a positive, uplifting experience. And hardship, talk about an adversity someone has overcome in life. Okay, we're now going to go back to Troy. Troy's going to offer some more expertise around the Menti questions. Back to you, mate.
Cheers, Steve. We're going to go into an area now. We're going to explore some skill acquisition. Okay, again, we've got a sliding scale. So I'd like you to rank these statements by percentage of importance for their ability to build confidence in young cricketers. Okay, remember your Menti code is at the top if you miss it. If it need to reset, fire away, coaches. I'm loving the themes that are coming through here, coaches. You're all over it. 2 clear leaders. Just get a little bit longer. We've got a few more. We're still rolling in, but starting to settle now with our columns. Okay, we've had a bit of a radio. So what we can see here, the slide not active. Okay, what we see is our bottom 2.
Internet problems here. Just let me come back.
Bear with us, coaches. The beauty of the online world is we do tend to have occasional breakdowns with internets. Something I think we've all experienced in the last few months of COVID. How are we going there, Steve?
I'm pressing present and hang on a sec. Are we back?
Okay, well done, mate. Great save. You've shown your versatility.
About being vulnerable, coaches.
Thank you for bearing with us, coaches. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'll go to our bottom 2 with our coach recognising rewarding effort and the competitive, fun, skill-based games. Okay, I believe these 2 bottom statements that are here, I think they're great ways to build and drive belief. Now, something that I've learned through my time in the game and my time coaching is beliefs, they can drive our actions, and then our actions drive our results. Okay, these are well-known cognitive behaviours, and it's a cycle that can keep repeating itself. using these bottom techniques of coach recognising and rewarding effort, a growth mindset skill, and competitive fun skill-based games are great ways to build this belief. Okay, nurturing environments that use game-relevant and relatable outcomes that allow success to be great providers of confidence. Games allow opportunities to feed that curiosity, and then by encouraging mistakes and using what we call collective agreement or collaboration, the outcomes of the game can further grow their confidence. Okay, using this collaboration between coach and athlete, or with a coach-led training environment, it can move away from that. It can move away from an athlete-centered. So we'd like to sort of, and I love the way the columns have lined up, that we're strongly towards the coach recognising and rewarding effort, and not so much towards the coach-led training environment. Okay, if it's managed well, it can increase motivation and build a lifelong love of the game and lifelong involvement. And these are the most important things at this level, okay, of development, and a key purpose around building confidence and keeping our players in the game. Next one, please, Steve. Okay, we're going to go now towards a question around building T20 awareness. And again, I'd like you to rank these statements by percentage of importance for their ability to build confidence in young cricketers. Off you go, coaches. Okay, they're certainly rolling in here. We didn't throw the coaches off their game, Steve. That's a good thing to see. Quite even in our responses, which is great. A little leader, but okay, I'll just give it another 10 seconds or so. Well done, coaches. Okay, firstly, I just want to touch on why I believe that T20 is such an important part around building confidence in our young cricketers, especially in the female space, and that being that a high percentage of their formats that they play is the short form, and there's a lot of T20 and not so much of the longer form. So T20 and 50 over cricket make up a high percentage. Okay, just going to talk through some of the statements now with our players exploring roles, our skill-specific T20 drills, and our centre wicket scenarios. So we'll start with our players exploring their skills. This drives confidence and connection to the game, and it also feeds curiosity. An important thing we notice is a nuance that's been identified. Allow players to explore and discover hidden abilities. As a coach, this allows us to act on observations that present and further chances to build our coach-player connection. I'm going to give a little example here that I've seen that paid massive dividends around a player exploring a role. The player I was lucky enough to coach and still coach, she was a reluctant bowler, but there was something, sometimes you see something in a player, and she was encouraged to explore this role and give it a go during training, and through the trust that had been built in the relationship, she went along and she willingly explored this role and got better and better. And from that, this player actually became and gained a professional contract with that skill that she explored being her major skill that she was given the contract for. So that was a wonderful example in a player exploring a role. Okay, we'll go to our skill-specific T20 drills. Now, fundamentals are a very, very key part of building confidence. And they're a key driver, but there needs to be a balance around doing any sort of drill work. And the balance needs to be fun. This helps enhance the connection and keep our players engaged to learn. Okay, an example of where skills, you can use skills in a really non-threatening environment and do a bit of things. And one example is something like range hitting. Okay, this allows us to be a non-threatening, fun environment, but it's a T20-based skill and a drill. Okay, and it also highlights some key outcomes. Some things like that player mightn't be a six-hitter yet, but they can identify that by doing something like some range hitting. And then something for me that's a clear number one and a clear theme through what we want to educate through our Cricket New South Wales programs is things like centre wicket scenarios. Okay, these build outcomes that grow confidence and allows opportunities for these players to execute the skills that have been explored and used through drills. If they're put in and trained in a relevant environment, it's a great way to keep building these skill bases and centre wickets, I can't praise them high enough for allowing this to happen. Now, it's a great medium to highlight players exploring their new skills and testing out the drill work they've done. Okay, and it's an awesome opportunity to actually praise their effort and not the outcome of what's happening, and watch them continue to grow. Good sessions are varied, that they have purpose, they're competitive, and they're game relevant. Okay, and that's a good way to build a confidence in our players. Back to you, Steve.
Awesome, Troy. Some more great advice there. Excellent work. So instilling confidence. Now, after you've built character, you've connected with your players, instilling confidence will allow players to maximise their talent. One of the challenges for coaches is instilling self-belief in female cricketers. A bit like our friend sitting on the rope there. I think he's a quite confident dude. So for players, give players clarity on their game day role and explain how that particular role is important for the team to succeed. Now, it's also important to communicate that roles may vary throughout the season, giving players opportunity to experiment and explore different positions in the team to find their own direction and see what works best for the individual. Now, a little bit of food for thought for coaches here. When a lot of girls turn up to their first couple of training sessions, all the bowlers tend to just bowl medium pace. I had this exact example, and one of the girls I was watching try to bowl medium pace, and she was pivoting on her front foot. So I said to this girl, what about next session we have a crack at bowling some spin? And true to her word, she turned up to the next session. She goes, Steve, can we try that spin stuff? And I said, yeah, not a problem. And she pretty much nailed it from the first ball she bowled. And 3 years later, she was bowling off spin at the under-15s nationals. So I guess the moral behind that is that young players will, they need to experiment and try all different skill sets as they're developing, because it'll change as they grow. In regards to the coach, design fun learning environments that reward and return players through recognition of effort. An example could be highlighting technical work on a bowling action that improved their ball speed, or making a better decision when batting improved the outcome. Now, as coaches, if we highlight small breakthroughs with players, it becomes a powerful confidence piece. Now, be mindful not to progress players before they're ready, as this can be detrimental to player confidence and ability to learn and develop. In regards to the team, ensure players feel part of the team and everyone knows each other. Now, this can be achieved through fun engagement activities that bonds the team together. Now, for me, this is crucial in developing the players' confidence. Now, providing feedback. Be very strategic on how you provide feedback to your female players. Always highlight good things first before providing constructive feedback on how to get better. Never criticise individuals in front of teammates. Sure, be honest, players respect that, but be mindful of how and when you provide that constructive feedback. One way I've seen coaches engage players in the feedback process is having a picture of a playing field, the circle of success, and a picture of a dressing shed. And after the game, the players are asked to write one thing they did well in the playing field and one thing they need to improve in the dressing shed. Having players take ownership is a powerful connection and confidence piece, let alone a great way to improve the competency outcomes. I thought I'd share a live example from one of my training camps last year. So I'm going to let you guys, the coaches, just read through them first couple of paragraphs and then I'll come back to you. So for me, it was a bit of a personal coaching lollipop moment. This player went on to be one of the leading run scorers at that under-15 nationals, winning selection in the under-15 Cricket Australia talent squad. She continued to develop as a player, becoming a successful leader and captain at under-18 level. So why was this a successful outcome? When that player moved out of the crease, she changed the length of the bowler. This touched on competency and a bit of character. That's a brave thing for a young girl to do, to step out of a crease and whack a ball back over the bowler's head. Young girls don't tend to hit straight, so generally there's space in the outfield to hit in the air. Less risk. Again, this touches on competency, but a little bit more confidence. But the big one for me was the trust in the coach's advice. That connection and confidence piece. So sometimes it's the small coaching moments that gives the biggest rewards. Simple, short, and succinct messaging works best, especially for younger developing players. I'll just touch on competency now. We've now gone through the steps of building character. We're connecting with and instilling player confidence. Now you're ready to coach and unlock players' competencies. Now it's important to note at this point that the 4 C's are not mutually exclusive outcomes. You can generate all 4 C outcomes with one activity within a training session. An example being scenarios of game-based activities. Competency should focus on developing the complete cricketer, following this skilled, athletic, smart coaching concept. I'm now going to hand back to Troy. Troy's going to take you through a series of Menti questions based around competency. So back to you, mate.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, again, we've got another sliding scale here. So I'd like you to rank the below statements of methods of what you see their importance in developing players' skill base. Okay, so phones out, off we go. Read those statements and rank them, the importance you think they have in developing players. Okay, we're rolling in. I think you're picking up on the theme, coaches. A clear leader, or no, just in the lead with our outcome-based scenarios, exploring our skills. Okay, just give it 10 seconds more. You're very quick on the draw, coaches. Excellent work. Okay, so I'll just work through those statements. Okay, so building sound technical fundamentals, which it finished almost as an equal with the other 2. Okay, now when we first start coaching, this is a little bit of a comfort zone around the technical fundamentals, and it's something that a lot of coaches move towards. Okay, and it's as we said, it's a wonderful way to actually build confidence, and it's a key attribute we would need to see in developing players. But we need to be careful around overuse, because overuse of technical drill-based work can actually lower motivation over time. Okay, we need to make sure with our drills and our technical fundamentals that the players know the why. Female players, as we have touched on, they always need to know the why. So make them fun and change the outcomes. Remember, our environment drives our motivation and our learning. Okay, if we go to exploring all our skill areas, and we've touched on this, and you'll see these common themes coming through, this allows us to increase our awareness of skills of our players and feed that why. Using this curiosity to provide motivation to learn and become lifelong lovers of the game, while also improving awareness and connection to the game, these are great ways to actually develop our players, their skill base. Okay, and if we go down to outcome-based game scenarios, one of the key things for me here is it allows observation. Observation to me, and it's something that I think is, and I've touched on earlier, is something that is an essential tool in the effective coach's toolkit. Okay, it allows us to build questions and outcomes that drive our learning, and challenge our players when they need to drive their growth, because challenge is part of driving their growth. We witness players' character and their confidence and build future focuses for those players. Do they need more work in an area to enhance his confidence and competence? Okay, and these two combined, that confidence and competence, they to me equal belief. Okay, I'm just going to give a quick little example around belief and how it can work. And we touched on earlier around the belief driving actions and this driving our results. And I'm going to use the short ball. If we get a player and their belief is that they can't play the short ball and they're no good at it, the action that can sometimes drive is they'll avoid that in training, and they don't want to do short ball work, and they hide away when it's happening. And the result will be they won't get better. That'll stay that way. Now, this result of not getting better actually keeps driving that outcome of not believing in the short ball, and that's a cognitive cycle that keeps along working. Okay. The other sort of important one around an outcome-based scenario is it allows that collective agreement we've talked about. You know, coach and player build that connection and they feel trusted. You know, and it keeps building that athlete-centered environment we've talked about. Again, base it around that varied, purposeful, competitive, game-relevant stuff. Okay, we'll move to the next one, Steve. Okay, we're going to go through here, and again, we're using our sliding scale. We're going to rank examples below in importance for improving athletic development. Okay, so off you go, coaches. Okay, some interesting things coming through here. We're still seeing the leader in our competitive, fun, agility-based activities, but we've got a few people who love their fitness and their foundation drill-based skills, which are neck and neck. Okay, just a little bit longer while our coaches put our final few answers in. Okay, I'm just going to work through those statements now. Okay, and I'll start with our competitive, fun, agility-based activities that keep coming up. Okay, these are a really key component and a key driver of athletic development. Okay, they're a great way to hide skills into outcomes, you know, through games. A great way to use for the coach to use their imagination and also to provide a fun environment that ticks the other boxes around building these lifelong learners. A great way and a skill that's often overlooked in a lot of cricket programs is our fielding. Now, fielding games are an ideal way to do this. Yeah? They're often neglected. But you can also add a component around batting and bowling activities that meet this outcome. Remember, competition will raise effort. Okay, we'll go to our foundation drills. Again, we touched on the fact that this can be a bit of a comfort area, and that's okay. Like, this is part of our developing as a coach. Yeah? But over time, if it's not varied, overuse can demotivate our players. So make sure they're varied and they add purpose by introducing things like Steve touched on running between the wickets, and and also then making sure and explaining why we do this. Because as we've touched on, a nuance is young female cricketers, they need the why. They will question the why. This can help increase their awareness, as we touched on, and use these activities in short bursts and introduce a fun component. Okay, we'll get to our last statement here, the fitness-based activities like sprints. We've obviously got a few personal trainers in the environment and a few people who love a few fitness Nazis. Now, fitness, as we know, and particularly as we get into the elite levels of the game, fitness is a really, really high component, and it allows people to make better decisions and has lots of outcomes. But at the level of developing players we're at, we need to be really careful and minimise things here. Use fitness hidden by stealth in our competitive games and stuff like that. Okay, so using it in isolation, as I said, can be a bit of a demotivator. So stick to outcomes as coaches. Now, develop a focus on fun, providing variety, and look for things that are going to build lifelong lovers and encourage them to learn through play. Okay, we'll go to the next one, please, Steve. Okay, so we're going to go to a question here and list some training activities that develop game awareness in players. Okay, as you see, we're back to a wordscape, and we'll try and keep it to 4 words or so, but 1 or 2, whichever works for you, and we'll see what comes up. Off we go, coaches. Oh, love it. Scenarios, it's coming through clearly that these coaches are on the ball. We've got some modified games. It's wonderful. And centre wicket scenarios and scenarios in general. Some role playing. Wonderful, wonderful insight. Oh, I'm seeing problem solving slipping up there. That's a wonderful thing to introduce in. Sure way to build awareness. Great stuff, coaches. Okay, we'll just give it a little bit longer with our scenarios and our centre wickets and our modified games being clear winners, which shows the themes are resonating through strongly with this wonderful coaching cohort. Okay, just another 10 seconds. Looks like we've settled. Okay. Well done, coaches. Wonderful stuff. Okay, a few here that I'd like to focus on are things that we're touching on, like unstructured play. Something that young females don't always get that much of, but it's a wonderful way through modified games and things like that. And we've also touched heavily on that exploration of roles and skills. And also it's shining through here with our game scenarios and a centre wicket. Okay, the things that we've touched on as well are avoiding overuse of drills and making sure they're fun and challenging for players. Great way to maintain a level of engagement in our players is, as a coach, I like to encourage people to be a problem creator. And then if we get players who are problem solvers, it keeps them engaged in their learning. The easiest way to lose engagement of a player with drill work sometimes, and it doesn't, as soon as you've solved the problem, the engagement lowers. So be a problem creator is a term I like to use. And I'll go back to one of my key themes are use observation. This shapes the future outcomes of our players, and it's a great way in centre wickets to build that awareness. Build open questions to your players through that observation. Allow players to answer and be an active listener. This strengthens the relationship and builds trust. Great stuff, coaches. I'm just going to finish now with a little bit of a closing and leave you with some stuff. So I just want to take the opportunity to thank the coaches for the chance to share some of my experiences and insights gained around the nuances of coaching young females. It's an exciting time with the WBBL and the World Cup exposing a massive audience to the brilliance of the female game. And the growth, as highlighted in Steve's slides earlier, of the players and the teams in female cricket, it's almost fourfold. So my challenge to you is get involved. Coaching this space has provided me with many opportunities and some of the most rewarding of my life. The curiosity, the open willingness to ask questions and the drive to be better of female athletes is something I encourage all players to experience. My parting piece of advice for you as coaches is know your why. As a coach, this may start as being a mum or a dad, but to stay in the game and continue to coach, you need to know your why and explore this. When it comes to the how, be open, take advice, and become a lifelong learner, constantly challenging and growing your methods and how you grow your how. Thanks again, coaches. It's been a pleasure to be involved tonight, and I hope to catch you during your coaching journey. And if you do, please say hello and we'll continue on to something we both love together. Back to you, Steve.
Thanks heaps, Troy, and I really appreciate your insights tonight, and as I'm sure the coaches have. Okay, guys, over the next couple of slides, I'm going to elaborate further on each point. I reckon this is a perfect opportunity to write down any questions you may have and send an email to your local coach and talent specialist, as they would love to hear from you. Now, us coaches love talking about this stuff, and their contact details will be provided at the end of the presentation. So on skill, young cricketers should practice, explore and develop all skills. Don't specialise too early. Playing other sports is also a good thing for young athletes, as skills are transferable across the sports. And if I can give you an example, if you think of the footwork used in netball and how that would correlate to playing spin, or the hand-eye coordination in hockey and hitting balls into gaps. In the skilled phase, you can focus on teaching fundamentals, establishing that sound technical foundation to try more funky things later in a program. Coaches may refer to this as deliberate practice. It's important to note that deliberate practice should only be done in short bursts, as it can mentally and physically cook players. Balance and planning are crucial here. For players to keep improving, it's important to keep challenging players by slowly increasing the difficulty of the drills and scenarios. This can be challenging for coaches, as all players will develop at different speeds. Be organised, well planned and have good knowledge of your players, and you'll achieve great outcomes. Again, balance is also important here. Break up this type of training with fun activities so the players continually engage and improve. In regards to athleticism, we don't want our new players new players to our game to run away because of inappropriate fitness sessions. Now, as a starting point, incorporate fun activities that involve agility. Now, that ability to move and change direction. Now, fielding and running between wicket activities are perfect examples, as young players will find this more attractive than running laps. Encouraging young girls to dive and slide early in programs is important due to the athletic nature of T20 cricket, our females' main form of cricket. Now, I'll give you a good example. Years ago in one of the academy programs, the throwing fielding coach come and he turned up with a water slide thing, one of the things you roll out. So we watered it up, added soap, and the girls had to run, dive and practice their slides and touching the ball back from the boundary. This was in the middle of July, mind you, but once the girls got into it, they had a great time and we had trouble stopping them. In regards to physical literacy, it's about developing the skills, knowledge and behaviours that give athletes the confidence and motivation to understand how, why and when you move to complement skill acquisition. Now, once players start to develop or move into academy level programs, you can then start to include some foundation exercises. Some simple examples include your push-ups, your squats, lunges, and some core activities like plank holds. Only teach you if you are competent in this area, or otherwise ask for advice. Medicine balls are also a good option at this level. For players to improve their physical literacy, they require a high work ethic and commitment to developing all skills required to be an elite athlete. Now, athleticism is an important component of being that successful athlete and should not be neglected by aspiring cricketers. So when we talk about SMART, the free play activities, female cricketers, they don't tend to play unstructured backyard games like the boys. So it's important to incorporate free play into training programs. With the inception and popularity of the WBBL, I have no trend will slowly start to change in young females cricketers in coming years. A good example is watch what happens when girls turn up to train and they generally just stand in their groups and chat away, where the boys, they'll get there and they'll be out playing some games. So this is a perfect opportunity for new coaches of young girls to shape their habits, and when they turn up to training, let's get them out there playing some type of game and could also form part of your warm-up. Game format scenarios. It's important as coaches of female teams, you upskill yourself around T20 and 40, 50 over games and the associated strategies. Now, ensure your scenarios are specific and tailored to help players achieve these outcomes. In regards to being competitor, adaptable and leadership, incorporating competition into training programs will increase player enjoyment. It allows coaches to identify leaders and inadvertently teach the players about the game, as natural instincts will take over. So as coaches of young and developing players, we should strive to increase their game awareness and leadership skills. This will be best developed through game scenarios where players learn by doing and we as coaches facilitate that learning. One of the examples, one of the things I did at one of my camps last year with the under-15 squad is at the end of the last training component was just 10 over a side game. The coaches, we umpired and scored, and we just let the girls play, let them explore, compete and have a bit of fun. How could this work in clubland, for example? Maybe once a month, you let the players drive or run part of the training session, if not all of the training, and sit back and watch and see what outcomes you see. That might help you drive the content of your next training session. So coaching strategy. Now, this slide gives you some thoughts on how you can go about developing your players. And I love this quote from a coach mentor of mine, current Cricket New South Wales female manager and former Australian coach Steve Jenkin. It's not important what I know, it's important that I know what the athlete knows. So as coaches, we can fall into the trap of doing everything for our players, especially as new coaches. Don't be afraid to let players experiment, watch and observe and coach what you need to coach. Following that play, learn, perform concept. That'll accelerate player development and most importantly, make training enjoyable. I mentioned balance in an earlier slide, and balancing out your training sessions is super important for running effective player outcome programs. Now, that balance between decision making, which can be your game scenarios, and the structure, which is your technical work, teaching the fundamentals. And the balance between that fun, safe learning environment, which can be free play or unstructured activities, and the challenging and stretching plays, which is that training uncomfortable part, that practicing the things you're not good at, are crucial to developing young cricketers' love of the game and giving them the tools to one day be skilled across all facets of the game, giving them the best opportunity to succeed. Just touch on some quality practice here. This slide gives you an overview of how you can design your training sessions, and Troy's mentioned this earlier on in some of his talks. Now, when designing your session, design with a purpose. Now, this will drive your content. Include variety to keep young cricketers engaged, and incorporate some games to specific activities, and add competition to part of the session. Now, I encourage all coaches to incorporate all 4 C components into the training program so you develop that holistic player. Now, if you're looking for some ideas, the Cricket Australia coaching app is a fantastic resource, and I highly recommend downloading and familiarising yourself with the content to help design training sessions. The app's free. It can be downloaded onto iPhone and Android phones, along with iPads, and can be found in the App Store. Okay, some key takeaways. I'll just get you guys just to read through them dot points on the left-hand side of the screen. As you're reading through, I might just highlight some key words, judge, the whole you, get to know, coach the cricketer, being positive in your feedback, know your why, and relationships. And I love the quote from Alan McConnell there, the Giants AFL women's coach. Men have to play well to feel like they belong, and women have to feel they belong to play well. So in summary, as I revisit this slide from the beginning of the presentation, as coaches, I hope you now understand better played-centred coaching environments, have a deeper knowledge of the 4C coaching principles, are upskilled around some of the differences when coaching females, and you're ready to inspire the next generation of female players to love our game of cricket. And finally, a quote from a legendary basketball coach. A good coach can change a game. A great coach can change a life, John Wooden. This below extract is from a pre-national championship speech from an under-15 female cricketer, which I thought was really powerful. It says, "Cricket has always been my way to escape isolation as a younger girl, and now escape the struggles of boarding school. It helps me forget the worries. Nothing matters when I'm playing." And never underestimate the role a coach can have on a player. If we as coaches can touch our players and make them fall in love with the game, then I reckon at pathway level, we're doing our job. And as I wrap up here, I think this was sent out to you in the email to invite it into this webinar. I highly recommend you watch this YouTube clip. And reflect on the concepts shown and the information gained through this presentation, and ask yourself, did this change the type of tiger you were? And I think the link may be also in the chat function. Troy and I thank you for dialing in, and hope you've gained something from tonight's presentation, and wish you all the best in your coaching journey. Now, please get in touch with your local coach and talent specialist with any questions you may have. And again, have a great night, everyone. It's been sensational to have over 70 coaches on the call tonight. So thank you and have a great night.